Lights, camera, action!
Hi there. I just got an idea how to make Chuck E. Cheese's better than ever. Brand new pizza. Genius if I do say so myself. Popping with new natural toppings. All with lots of sauces and plenty of cheese. So while you're having fun rolling and winning, jumping and spinning, and laughing and grinning, we're in the kitchen making the best pizza in town. Chuck E. Cheese's is better than ever. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Chuck E. Cheese's, known as the place where a kid can be a kid, has been a part of everyone's childhood, including me. This popular pizza chain with arcades and animatronics has spread all throughout the globe, from California to Arizona to Texas to Florida to Illinois. But there's one place I would like to talk about, and that place is Louisville, Kentucky. Named after King Louis XVI of France, Louisville was founded in 1778 by George Rogers Clark, making it one of the oldest cities west of the Appalachian Mountains and the 29th largest city in the U.S. Obviously a great place for Chuck E. Cheese to expand to. But what a lot of people don't know is how long Chuck and his band have been around Louisville. Opening 2 restaurants around the same time, closing both, and opening a new location in a building that once belonged to a competitor. This is the history of Chuck E. Cheese in Louisville, Kentucky.
Birthday one, honey bun, won't you be our birthday one?
Please say yes, don't say no.
And we'll tell the world.
By now, it's probably no surprise to anybody that we got a birthday number coming up here.
Before we go into the history of Chuck E. Cheese's in Louisville, we should go over the history of Chuck E. Cheese's as a whole. Chuck E. Cheese's was founded on May 17, 1977 as Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater. It was created by Nolan Bushnell, who was also the co-creator of the popular video game company Atari. He wanted a place where families could spend time with each other, eat pizza, and play the latest arcade games at the time. They also had an animatronic band that was originally created for the adults to watch while the kids were playing arcade games. Shortly after its founding, Chuck E. Cheese's began to grow across the United States with over 100 locations by the 1980s. And that's where the topic of this video comes up. But what a lot of people don't realize is how soon Chuck and his gang of animatronic animals would move into the Derby City. In fact, it was only 5 years after its original founding.
Once I had this wild idea for a place where you could eat pizza, salads, and sundaes, and play exciting new games, see a show. I'd call it Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater. I just wonder if anyone would come. Now there's a new Pizza Time Theater right here.
As stated before, there were 2 locations created in Louisville. There was one on Preston Highway and one in Mall St. Matthews. Let's get started with the most well-known former location, the one on Preston Highway. The Chuck E. Cheese's on Preston Highway opened on July 31st, 1982, and instantly became very popular with families. According to my grandma, who may or may not be a reliable source, she took my dad to the Chuck E. Cheese's on Preston Highway, and that it was located next to a building that later became a shoe carnival. Speaking of my grandma, she actually has a Chuck E. Cheese token from 1986 from her last visit. The building Chuck E. Cheese was originally located in was an Alpha 2 cinema until it was converted into a Chuck E. Cheese's. By the way, the owner, whose name was Bruce Schinbach, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, I apologize if I'm not, was also the owner of the St. Matthew's location, which we will get to. The building itself was an average size for a Chuck E. Cheese's at the time. It also looked the same with plain white walls with minor details, blue booths, and what appears to be wood paneling around all the counters. Now the photos I'm going off of were from the 1990s, so the 80s could have looked and probably were very different compared to the photos here. But I barely have any photos from back then and I cannot find any online. As for some of the games there's obviously a lot, too many to go over in this video. But here's a couple that I was able to find in old photos and old Facebook posts. So there was a game called Can Alley, a game called Dragon's Lair, an NBA game called NBA Jam, a whack-a-mole game called Whack-a-Munch, which is still in some stores to this day, and the all-time classic Skee Ball. As for the animatronic show, it was pretty interesting and cool. Now again, I'm basing these off of photos from the 1990s, and it's already been confirmed that the 80s had a different show, but we'll get to that later. The animatronic stage in the Preston location was called the C stage, which was very similar to the rocker stage, in which it was a house with 2 windows and it has 5 animatronics. It also features the long extinct flower characters that did backup singing. The 5 characters on this stage were not a band originally, as back then they were called the Pizza Time Players. And by the way, all of these characters are still around today. Well, at least these 5 are. And from left to right we have Mr. Munch, Jasper T. Giles, Chuck E. Cheese, Helen Henny, and Pasquale the Chef. However, what if I told you there was a 6th character who was away from the rest of the gang? Or he could have been in the same room with them, depending on the location. But he was just as entertaining, and his name was the King. The King was a 9-foot-tall lion animatronic who was based off of the late great musician Elvis Presley. He was designed to look like Elvis and was programmed to perform Elvis music that was taken from the soundtrack. He was located in an area called the Cabaret Room, or the Cabaret Lounge, depending on the location. On a side note, I found this newspaper ad from H&S Hardware in 1983, where Chuck E. Cheese himself showed up at their Preston Highway location, as well as their Dixie Highway location, for an event where you could purchase toys and he would give you Chuck E. Bucks. Which, by the way, Chuck E. Bucks were this thing that they did, where if you could get enough of them, you would get extra tokens. At least I think that's what it was. Anyway. Chuck E. Cheese's was a massive success right out of the gate, as Preston Highway's Chuck E. Cheese became the only one in Louisville, but that was about to change very soon.
I got a hankering to go to Chuck E. Cheese. Let's go to Chuck E. Cheese. We love it for its great new pizza. We love it for the fun with Chuck E. Cheese. Great new pizza.
Now you can have one of these Chuck E. t-shirts for your very own for only $2.99. And I'll give you a coupon for tokens worth $3 on your next visit.
My face got happy when I went to Chuck E. Cheese. We love to go to Chuck E. Cheese.
A little while after Preston Highway's location opened, in either 1983 or 1984, a second Chuck E. Cheese's opened inside of Mall St. Matthew's Shopping Center. Not much information is known about this location, but here's what I have discovered. But first, here's a little history about the mall itself. Mall St. Matthew's was created by the Rouse Company, I think I'm pronouncing that right, and it was first opened on March 21st, 1962. It was originally called The Mall, or the Shelbyville Road Mall. It became the first enclosed suburban shopping mall in the state of Kentucky. It features 2 main anchor stores, Kaufman Stratus, I think I said that right, and Rose's, with JCPenney opening soon. In the 1980s, it was renamed to Mall St. Matthew's after several other malls opened, and is still considered one of the best malls in Kentucky. As for Chuck E. Cheese's, they were added to the mall as it was still growing. Like I said before, I don't have much information on this location, but I will try my best and feel free to correct me in the comments section if you disagree with what I have to say. The location Chuck E. Cheese's took over was originally a Max and Irma's store. At least I think. Other sources say that they could have existed alongside each other, but most say that Chuck E. Cheese took over that space, so that's what I'm going off of. Because this location was in a mall, it could be accessed from the inside and the outside. And it was a little bit bigger, being about 12,000 square feet. And it was located near the mall's north end, I think. Now, while there's little information about this location, there is a video that might be from St. Matthews. The clips that I'm showing here were taken in 1986, and the uploader claims that it might have been from the St. Matthews location, but others say that it might have been Preston's location. As you can see, there were multiple games and rides such as a claw machine, a train ride, several spaceship rides, a motorcycle ride, and the very famous Chuck E. Cheese's carousel. Yo, that thing is so cool. The location also had a ball pit that was located next to the set of windows on the right side of the entrance. Also, according to an online forum site, the Chuck E. Cheese's also had the Simpsons arcade game and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, where people had to wait in line due to how popular they were. The animatronic stage was known as the balcony stage, where characters were placed on top of a balcony and were only seen from the waist up, similar to the C stage that we talked about earlier. They had the same characters as Preston, and it is possible that they had other characters throughout their 8-year lifespan. A king animatronic was also placed there with a more detailed set, as well as newer versions of classic extinct Chuck E. Cheese characters, the Warblets, whatever they're called, the singing birds. There were also flags placed around the showroom that would move back and forth after every performance. Preston had these as well, as did the other locations. Preston has also been confirmed to have the balcony stage too, but it isn't as well known as Mall St. Matthews, and I was only able to find this one photo. Under the animatronic stage was a small crawl space for younger kids to crawl through that looked like cheese, with the addition of holes to peek out of. Like Preston, a C stage might have been placed there as well, because I found this photo whilst researching this video. You may have noticed in a couple of these photos, it's very dark in the showroom. Chuck E. Cheese's did that up until very recently, just to add to the showroom experience. Though obviously now, they put windows there and it's a lot brighter. Also, according to several people on Facebook, both Chuck E. Cheese's, and I'm assuming all the other locations outside of Louisville, had teen nights on Friday nights where teenagers could come together, hang out, and apparently they had dance-offs and lip-sync battles. Did anybody watching this, did you guys go to any of these? You should tell me in the comments section. Speaking of Facebook, I was able to hear a bunch of stories from past workers from the Chuck E. Cheese's on St. Matthews that Chuck himself would make various appearances throughout Louisville. This goes for Preston as well. Chuck made special appearances at the Louisville Zoo, a roller skating rink, as well as the Gaslight Festival where he rode on top of a fire truck, in the rain, while getting hit by branches. The craziest one I heard was Chuck landed in a helicopter for some sort of Special Olympics thing. That's kinda cool. The Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater in Mall St. Matthews was proven to be a massive success, just as or even more popular as Preston's location. It was so popular that people came to Mall St. Matthews just to go to Chuck E. Cheese's and not any of the other stores. And people had to wait in line at the door due to overcrowding. Preston had the same issue as well. The manager even said that they had up to 200 birthday parties a week. That is crazy. Despite the food being mediocre, but that's typical for places. But all that success and fun was about to come crashing down.
My mom wants me to be famous. My dad wants me to be a hero. Hey, I just want to be a kid. 'Cause it's a lot more fun anyone can see. And Chuck E. Cheese is the place to be. I want to laugh and play. I just want to be me. Chuck E. Cheese. And you won't believe what my sister wants me to be. Where a kid can be a kid.
Despite how popular these two locations were, they weren't long for this world. The downfall started around 1984 when Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy after the video game crash of 1983. Thankfully, Chuck E. Cheese's was bought by competitor chain, and honestly a lot better than Chuck E. Cheese's, Showbiz Pizza, and the two companies merged and became a newly rebranded Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza. While neighboring locations were not affected too much by the merger or the rebranding, smaller stores, including the two Louisville locations, struggled really bad. The Mall St. Matthews location was the first to go on December 1st, 1991, after only 8 years in operation. According to Bill Myers, Director of Operations of Mall St. Matthews in the Career Journal newspaper, business was very steady, very consistent, but if you want to survive, you have to constantly reinvest. Meaning they were going to focus more on the Preston location and even signed a 10-year lease for that location. So the animatronics were turned off, windows were covered in black, and demolition was soon underway, marking the end of Chuck E. Cheese's in Mall St. Matthews. Some people were upset with the mall's decision to close Chuck E. Cheese's by bringing up the fact that the Preston location was too far away for them to travel there regularly. To try and prevent things from going any further, Mall St. Matthews rebooked all of the 50 birthday parties planned to be held at the Mall St. Matthews location to now be held at the Preston location. And they even gave him directions. Remember, GPS wasn't a thing back then. While Preston Hwy's location received more business since St. Matthews closed, it didn't last too long after. After the St. Matthews location closed, Preston's location was still not affected and was constantly getting updated with the latest and greatest technology and promotions. But it wouldn't last too long because 6 years later, in November 1997, Preston's location closed for good. A few days after its closing, the owners auctioned off all of the tables, games, rides, and kitchen equipment to the general public. By the way, does anyone watching this remember going to this auction? And more importantly, did you get anything? Or did your parents get anything? Please let me know in the comment section below. I don't know why they decided to close this location. I mean, the 10-year lease they promised in 1991, I guess they broke the promise. Maybe it was losing money, maybe it wasn't performing well, or maybe it was because Chuck E. Cheese's was going through some changes in the late 90s. Whatever the reason was, the Preston location was closed, and Louisville was left without a Chuck E. Cheese's. But it wouldn't be too long before Chuck and his gang would return.
CEC TV.
I'm so non-stop's what I am. And Chuck E. Cheese's non-stop fun to plan. So non-stop you can check out all I did. Chuck E. Cheese is the real cool place to be a kid.
On December 27, 1999, it was announced that Chuck E. Cheese's would be returning to Louisville after a 2-year absence, in the form of a brand new store housed in a former Discovery Zone building. If you don't know what Discovery Zone is, then I'll tell you. Discovery Zone was a place that was similar to Chuck E. Cheese's, where it served pizza, hosted birthday parties, and had an arcade. But the main attraction was the famous Play Place, that would later inspire McDonald's and, yes, Chuck E. Cheese's to get their own Play Places. They opened their first location in Kansas City, Missouri in 1989 and continued to dominate the early 90s before being bought by the defunct video rental store Blockbuster Video. In the late 90s, they began to struggle and filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and closed all of their stores. However, 13 of their stores were bought by their biggest competitor, and his name was Chuck E. Cheese. They then converted all of the Discovery Zones into Chuck E. Cheese's, including the new Louisville location. According to Reddit user Worat, I don't know how to pronounce that, Discovery Zone gave away a lot of free prizes just a few days before they were converted into Chuck E. Cheese's. The new location was about 14,600 square feet, and they hired about 50 people for their grand opening. On January 2nd, 2000, the new and improved Chuck E. Cheese's of Louisville opened to the general public. The new location's interior is a little bit more modern compared to the one on Preston and in St. Matthews, but it looks like the standard Chuck E. Cheese at the time, with tan walls, or white walls depending on the location, a black-gray carpet, along with red and turquoise booths. I'm pretty sure it probably looked different back then, but this is what I remember seeing. The exterior of the building had a brick front with the classic Chuck E. Cheese's logo from the late 90s and early 2000s. The side of the building displays the name Chuck E. Cheese's as well as the blue awnings that extend to all the other stores in that strip mall. Now, this is my childhood Chuck E. Cheese's and the one that I went to the most as a kid. So if I ramble too much, it's because I remember this place very well. Such as when you walk in the door, you smell the pizza right away. The smell I can still smell when I'm in the drive-thru of my Little Caesars. I even remember what the setup looked like. There were several posters that were spread all around the establishment, just like all the other locations, but they had several posters from the 90s that most likely came from the Preston location, though they were probably just the standard posters that Chuck E. Cheese had back then. But I'm assuming they might have been from Preston. I remember these two posters in particular because, I remember seeing them the most, as well as these iconic rainbow portraits of Chuck E. Cheese that stood out from the most. A lot of these are still there to this day, but the two posters I mentioned earlier, I don't think they're there anymore, unfortunately. As for the animatronic stage, it was very different compared to the previous locations, as this location featured the new at the time Studio C Alpha stage, instead of the regular band that most other locations had at the time. For a little background on this stage, this was created in 1997 by the Garner Holt Company, who also helped out with several animatronics and attractions for Disney. It features a single robot of Chuck E. Cheese, who was more advanced than the past robots. He also had a parrot and a swinging pizza phone. Chuck stood behind a desk in the style of a late-night show along with an Apple TV that was actually an apple. Sometimes it was green, sometimes it was red, depending on the location. Most of the time it was green. Anyway, the stage was located in a showroom with a large Studio C dining sign above the entrance. I remember it being somewhat dark with booths along the sides of the party tables in front of the stage. There were also TVs hanging from the ceiling that played music videos, and on one instance, B-Movie. I also remember not wanting to go in there since that's where the Chuck E. Cheese mascot mostly hung out, and I was incredibly afraid of him back then. Just imagine this kid as me, and you've got the idea. But if you want a video, just search up, kids scared of Chuck E. Cheese, or Chuck E. Cheese scares kid, or something with scared and Chuck E. Cheese in the title, and you've pretty much got me back then. And don't worry, I like him now. I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't like him. Also, I'm my high school mascot, so I've got over that fear now. As for the arcade games, this was definitely where all the good stuff was. I remember being in the arcade a lot and playing the games multiple times. There are some games that may or may not be there anymore, but that I remember fondly. Here are a few games and rides that I remember. First, there was a game about catching bees called Buzzy Buzzy Bee. You caught these yellow and black striped balls in a net for a short amount of time. This is still my favorite arcade game of all time, and I really wish I had one here in the basement. Next, there was this fish game that I don't remember what it was called, but I remember fish spinning in a circle and the game machine was pink. Does anybody remember what this game was called? Do you remember playing it? Do you have it? Please let me know, because I really forgot the name of this. I remember playing that a lot. Then these two aren't really games, but I still remember them fondly. One was a monster truck game where you crush cars and you get tickets. The other one was a token-operated toy train that was enclosed on a red counter that you could control. Of course, Chuck E. Cheese's had a play place that I remember fondly because it was the centerpiece of the building. Oddly enough, it didn't smell like crap or any other bodily fluids like everyone else said. There was also a toddler zone that had several kiddie rides and a small slide. and it's still there to this day. Finally, I will talk about some of the rides I remember riding when I visited during my childhood. First, there was the iconic horse ride that is pretty much at every Chuck E. Cheese's. Sometimes it's a giraffe, sometimes it's a bigger horse, but this location, they still have it too. It's a white horse. And I never knew the name of it until recently. It's called the Kentucky Derby. Next, there is the school bus ride with Chucky in the background. This is very similar to the next one, except it's enclosed and it does not take your picture. I remember this fondly too. Finally, the one that everybody knows, it's in every single location, and it's still here to this day. The red car that takes your picture. In fact, I still have my pictures right here. I also have some pictures of me and my dad from the photo booth in July of 2004. I wasn't even a year old. So going off of this info, I sketched out what I remember it looking like back then. Now before I move on to the next chapter, I just want to go over a memory I have from my last visit to Chuck E. Cheese's. So the last time I went to any Chuck E. Cheese's, I wore a red U of L jacket, and I tied it around my waist. While I was playing games, I guess it came off, and I never noticed until we were exiting the building. So we had to go back in and find it. Don't worry, I did, and we left, but the employee was so confused. And that was the last time I ever stepped foot in a Chuck E. Cheese's.
Did somebody say cheese? Cheese! Say kabam! Say look out! Say look at me go! It's always just your size. Don't ask why. Me, oh, might be brave or shy. Make goo-goo eyes. Maybe you could even win a sweet prize. Everybody say cheese is funner. Everybody say cheese is funner. Say cheese is funner at Chuck E. Cheese's. What are you waiting for? Let's play. Where a kid can be a kid.
And that brings us to today. As of 2021 and of this recording, the current Chuck E. Cheese's in Louisville is still going strong with a 4-star rating and mostly positive reviews. However, I've noticed after I stopped going, things have changed. It seems like they remodeled the building. It is apparently a Phase 4 store now? I think that's what I heard in a video, so I'm gonna go with it. Based on the videos I've seen, this is what it looks like now. You can see the main thing is the Studio C stage is no longer in a crowded dark showroom and is now against the wall on the other side of the building. And is a lot brighter, I've noticed. The curtains don't work anymore and some of the lights don't work too. But the actual animatronic looks a lot better than some I've seen. He looks clean and almost brand new. Actually, I think he is brand new. Thank God they didn't get rid of him. Screw 2.0. I could literally do a whole video on just ranting about 2.0. That is an awful, awful concept. The exterior of the building also looks really different. It no longer has the classic late 90s, early 2000s Chuck E. Cheese logo, and now features the 2004 logo with the Avenger Chuck E. giving the thumbs up. The awning also looks different. It's no longer blue, but now black. And the color of the Chuck E. Cheese sign, the letters, is now pure red and not red, orange, and yellow. Also, the toddler zone is no longer enclosed, at least I think it's not, and the play place is up against the wall and looks a lot smaller than what I remember. And they also added a lot of newer standard arcade games that I do not remember seeing when I was last there. But that's cool. However, a lot of my favorite games that I actually remember are no longer there, which is sad. At the end of the day, this is a fine location. Is it perfect? No. Is it just as entertaining as the other locations? Yes. So go visit it next time you're in Louisville. It is located at 2030S Hurstbourne Pkwy, Louisville, Kentucky 40220, right next to an old Pier 1 Imports and a J.D. Becker Superstore. Those are literally the only stores that I know in that shopping center. Well, there is Plato's Closet. Now you're probably wondering about Preston and St. Matthews. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about them.
Follow me to fun. Follow me to fun. Everyone's invited.
Let's start with Preston's location, since it's the easiest one to locate. So like I said earlier, after it closed, they auctioned off everything and the building almost immediately became abandoned. According to my grandma, once again, she says it was converted into a bank. But what bank? And where was this place located? This is what I wanted to know. So doing research and finding old newspaper ads, I was able to find the address of what I thought was the building. It was right next to a Save-A-Lot store, and the shoe carnival I spoke about earlier is now an Ollie's bargain outlet. As for Chuck E. Cheese's address, the address I thought was where it was located was 5745 Preston Highway, Louisville, Kentucky 40219, and it's located at the Indian Trail Shopping Center. So what did it become? I had originally thought it was the abandoned Chase Bank right next to the Save-A-Lot because it has the same address as the newspaper ads, 5745. But I guess I was wrong, because according to people on Facebook, the former Chuck E. Cheese location on Preston Highway was given a new life as a Hibbett Sports. I think I said that right. That's right, a Hibbett Sports filled the abandoned store Chuck E. Cheese's left behind. So my grandma was wrong, and I was wrong too? Wow. Like I said, she's either a reliable or not reliable source. Anyway, so this makes sense because the Chase Bank I thought was Chuck E. Cheese's is actually too small on Google Maps. Speaking of Google Maps, here's what it looks like today. Very similar, but also different to Chuck E. Cheese's. Out of curiosity, I decided to call the phone number listed on the old newspaper ads, just to see what would happen. And this is attempt 1 at calling the former Chuck E. Cheese's on Preston Highway.
Reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number and try your call again.
Well, as you can see, the phone number is disconnected and is no longer in service. I knew it since the store had probably gotten a different phone number since the 90s. So if you ever see yourself driving down Preston Highway, driving to the Indian Trail Shopping Center, be on the lookout for the Hibbett Store building, because that was once Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater.
Looks like today is your Chuck E. Day. Cool games. Awesome birthdays! And now, every Ticket Blaster has a golden ticket. Catch it and win incredible prizes, like a Dell promo gift card. Chuck E. Cheese's, where a kid can be a kid.
Now, it was easy searching for the Preston location since it had its own address and it was easy to find. But St. Matthews is a mall, and has a lot of room and areas that could be the former location. I spent weeks searching for the location, and the ending will shock you. First, I tried to find the address of the building, but it turns out the address in the ads that were from the 80s is actually the address to the entire mall. So that sucks. Next, I guessed based on the information given in that old newspaper article from 1991. It said it had a square foot of around 12,000, so I searched for a building that had a similar square foot. I was able to rule out both Dillard's stores, JCPenney, as well as the cinema. I then remember seeing it was near the north end of the mall, so it was either the Cheesecake Factory or Forever 21. I ruled out the Cheesecake Factory because the square foot was too small, so I went with Forever 21 as the former location. But this didn't last for long. I noticed the Forever 21 square foot space was bigger, but I had just thought it was because of renovations. I then looked at the outside entrance and I saw the exterior was way different. But again, I thought it was because of renovations. I then remembered that Chuck E. Cheese's was converted into a temporary space for Limited Express. I just had to find out where this space was, and I'd find my answer, right? I then searched for photos of the Limited Express and found one photo as you see here, but I was still suspicious, so I tried to find an old map from after 1991, and I found this, a map showing what the mall looked like in 1992 after the renovation, and there it was, but in a circle building, and a separate building outside? What? So as a last-minute check, I went as far as going onto the Internet Archive Wayback Machine to search for both the Chuck E. Cheese's and Mall St. Matthews website. Still found nothing. So, I gave up and went on Facebook just to hang out. While I was on Facebook, out of curiosity, I searched up St. Matthews and found a Facebook group dedicated to St. Matthews history. And while I was browsing old photos, I came across a photo of a bunch of people dancing. And what was in the background? None other than Chuck E. Cheese's. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I found it. And not only that, but there was a picture of the area today. And it turns out the area Chuck E. Cheese's once inhabited was now where Auntie Annie's was, as well as Bath and Body Works. But how? I was confused at first, but then I remembered the area was demolished, so it obviously changed. I was also able to find an old map from 1986 which confirms the earlier post. It has also been discovered that the original entrance is now a security office. After seeing all of this, I needed to know more, so I sent a request to join the group, and a day later I was able to join and I immediately posted about Chuck E. Cheese's, and got response from past employees and people who remember it as kids. In fact, most of the info from this video was taken from this and other Facebook posts and groups. So now my search was complete. And over. For now. Oh, by the way, I also called the old phone number just to see what would happen. Here's the video. Alright, now I'm going to call the former Chuck E. Cheese's located at Mall St. Matthews. I'm a little bit nervous with this one.
We're sorry. You have reached
Oh, it's
a
the
number
same.
that
It's
has
the
been
exact same
disconnected or
one.
is no longer in service. If you feel
It's the same exact one as Preston Hwy. All right, whatever.
I just want to say that I am tired of dumb old restaurants. I agree. You gotta sit still and not run around. And do you know what else? They make you eat stuff like linguine. Ew! At Chuck E. Cheese, you can act like a kid. You can have more fun than you ever did. You can giggle, you can wiggle, you can flip your legs. Chuck E. Cheese, where a kid can be a kid.
And there you have it, the history of Chuck E. Cheese's in Louisville, Kentucky. Sorry if this video was long, I just tried to cram in as much information about this iconic pizza chain into one video. Like I said, I will return to Chuck E. Cheese's one day, and I'll even record it, as I don't have a grudge towards the company. I mean, I'm making this video, so obviously I like the company now. I even have this giant Chuck E. Cheese stuffed animal that my sister's girlfriend's little sister gave to me. I also plan on getting a Chuck E. Cheese mascot suit, but I think I'll get a Toys R Us one for now, and I'll save Chucky for later. So what did you guys think about this video? Do you like this new format for some of my videos? Also in the comments, I want you to share your favorite memories from your visits to Chuck E. Cheese's, like I did earlier in the video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Please like, share, and definitely subscribe, as I'm trying to balance out this wacky subscriber ratio count. Thanks for watching, and remember, smile America, say Chuck E. Cheese. Bye-bye.
Smile America, say Chuck E. Cheese. Smile America, say Chuck E. Cheese. Food and games and all kinds of
cheese. Oh, taste the pizza time theater. Smile, America, say Chuck E. Cheese. You can smile. Make believe you're in outer space. Throw a party at Chuck E's place. You can smile. Watch the gang go wild. So much fun you can't help but smile. You can smile. America, say Chuck E. Cheese. Smile, America, say Chuck E. Cheese. Food and games and all kinds of creatures. Oh, taste the pizza time theater. You can smile, America. Smile, America. Smile, America, say Chuck E. Cheese.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. She was looking kinda dumb with a finger and a thumb in the shape of an L on her forehead. Well, the years start coming and they don't stop coming. Back to the rules and I hit the ground running. Didn't make sense not to live for fun. Your brain gets smart but your head gets dumb. So much to do, so much to see. So what's wrong with taking the back streets? You never know if you don't go. You never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. It's a cool place, and they say it gets colder. You're bundled up now, wait till you get older. From the meteor men beg to differ, judging by the hole in the satellite picture. The ice we skate, it's getting pretty thin. The water's getting warm, so you might as well swim. The world's on fire, how about yours? That's the way I like it, and I never get bored. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. Take it, guys. You know, I broke a mold once. Come on, everybody, get up and dance. It was a bust of George Washington. It was an art class. That's it. All right, sing with me now. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars. Somebody once asked, could I spare some change for gas? I need to get myself away from this place. I said, yep, what a concept. I could use a little fuel myself, and we could all use a little change. Well, the years start coming and they don't stop coming. Back to the rules and I hit the ground running. Didn't make sense not to live for fun. Your brain gets smart but your head gets dumb. So much to do, so much to see. So what's wrong with taking the back streets? You never know if you don't go. You never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold.
Alright, what should I do for my next video? No. Yes! I got it!